for your projects. And in the fourth stage, I think you should control or to make in place your solution or your project, and how we see with our colleagues, Tunisian colleagues, tomorrow, see it's a good project, good company. This is growth from 2004 until now. He received good results in maybe in 7 years. Now we have a big company and a large with the certificate ISO 2001. I think it's a good example for us and for you also to make energy and to make a good conception of your projects. And I think with the professor with you will help you to make a good project, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Mr. Arafan, maybe you will give us the link with the industry, how the industry will look at the level of communication tools in the engineering curriculum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anyway, I hope so. Well, sorry. From time to time, I give a seminar or a training about communication. But don't misunderstand me. We talk too much in such a way that we have some relaxed atmosphere and to share things. But communication, be careful. It doesn't mean if you take a person who is in charge of communication, Madam or Monsieur Communication, or with a communication agency, generally they have some informal clothes, etc. It is not the point. But don't be afraid and don't be frustrated if people say that engineers don't communicate. They communicate, but in their way. You must not transform yourself in so-called PowerPoint engineers. People in the industry name recently graduated engineers as PowerPoint engineers. Now, two main points. Do you know Blaise Pascal? It is a philosopher, French philosopher. He wrote a letter to a very high rank responsible in the maybe a cardinal, I don't know. He said, "I'm sorry for being so long because I hadn't time to make it short." To make it short requires a lot of work. You have to work. In Arabic we say, you need 1 year to organize a marriage of one night, of one day. Then, to have a good result, you have to work very much, but make it short. And in my seminar, there is another point, which is communication in relation to your day-to-day work. It is in direct relation, as a lady said yesterday, through her question, a question of safety. If communication doesn't work, you have a big risk, a high risk to have problems or accidents. And I teach something like that. And do not be afraid to be, because the communication in industry, you have 2 or 3 sorts. You have body language, etc., etc. But you need more or less 2 kinds of communication. It is to convince your management or your investors. Then you have to be very focused, you have to convince, and you have to give facts. I'll give you just a very short advice taken from my friend Guy Kawasaki, the author of Art of Start. Nobody will blame you if you are too short. Never, people don't blame somebody who talks too short. They always blame somebody who talks too long. The question of drawing. Don't be afraid. You need to draw. We talk about l'art de l'ingénieur. It is an art. You haven't to picture like Leonardo da Vinci, no. But you must execute plans. If you send a plan or a drawing to a Chinese without reading Chinese, you will be you must be able to know what is asked for you to do through the drawing. That's it. And the last but not least advice, use the Kawasaki rule of 10, 20, 30. Presenting your business plan, presenting your project. 10, 20, 30. It means 10 slides. Well, 12 if you want, but not more. 10 slides. 20 minutes of presentation. And 30 points in the size of the printing. There is a rule of thumb. You take the audience, you estimate the average of their age, and you divide it by 2. If people are 40 years average, you have to have at least 20 points of size of printing in such a way that people can see from the back of the room. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rafan. So now...
if it's okay, I have one more point I would like to say. We've had some really good discussions about communication, but something that hadn't come up was the use of email as a communication tool, both in business and within the university. And there's a kind of tradition of making emails becoming more and more informal. And so we'll just put a quick line, don't really look at spell checking, and just send it off, at least in the United States, where our students are very, very guilty of doing that. And one of the things that I wanted to talk with you guys about is applying to graduate schools in other countries, or even here in Morocco, if you're applying for school in Tunisia or in the United States, or even within your own university. One of the things I get about 10 emails a week from students who would like to come and work with me a week. So 10 emails a week times how many weeks are in a year. So I get a lot of emails from students. And almost all of them get immediately ignored, because what we refer to as blanket emails, which is basically a student will take a form and they'll say, "Dear doctor," and then there's like a blank, and they fill out whoever they're writing the email to. "I am very impressed with your prestigious research group." So very generic. He didn't say anything about what my research group is, what I work on. "I would love to come and work with you. Here are the areas of interest." And in industrial engineering in the United States, we have operation research, we have decision making, and we have human factors and ergonomics are our 3 main areas. And I'm human factors, but what they'll do is list all 3 areas as their interest. So again, not giving me any information on what they would actually like to study. And then they go on to say, "Your recent paper," and they copy and paste it from my website in the font from my website, so it's quite obvious that they didn't read it, didn't look into it. Was very interesting to me. I would very much like to come for a summer internship from November through February, which we don't have in the United States. Please respond. And so those emails, when I'm getting 10 of those a week from students, immediately get ignored because 1, they didn't even look into what I do. 2, they never said what they were interested in and why we would be a good match to work together. And 3, it's quite obvious that they sent this to about 50 different professors with just changing in and out the name. So email is a great communication tool, and when you can't talk with someone over the phone, if you can't talk with them face-to-face, then you need to distinguish yourself in an email to them using professional context and also just presenting yourself in a professional way every time you write an email. So this is just an example of graduate school, but every time you write anything, you should really think, what's the purpose of this email, and are they getting or understanding what we're writing? The other thing that we were talking about is sketching, and or the idea of communicating what your idea is in innovation. And I always tell my students, you might have the best idea, But if you can't communicate effectively what that idea is, then you fail, because no one's ever going to understand what you're talking about, any of the points you're trying to make, and therefore no one's going to pick it up. So that's a really important concept.
Just another example which I thought of is as civil engineers. You know, the civil engineers always, they have some problem with the architects. I think that's true in Morocco, in Tunisia, and the States, everywhere. The civil engineers, they do all the hard work, from design toward the realization, implementation, construction work. Yet, the architect is the manager. I think that's my opinion. The architects are distinguished by their communication skills, by their drawings, the way they dress, the way they speak, the direct contact with the clients. And, you know, that's why I think civil engineers should do a lot in the communication skills in order to get their rights in the construction sites or in the consultant firms. Just a question of communication tools, written, oral, verbal, non-verbal. Every tool is needed in order to market your idea. You might have the greatest idea in the world. If you cannot communicate it clearly, then it's equal, the past information is equal to zero. Mm-hmm. You don't get anything. Yes, Wissam, if you have.
Sorry. So, normally I am a panelist. I should be with you, okay? But I prefer to be as a student, okay? It's more easiest for me, and as an engineer, I'm very, very connected to the computer, okay? So when I want to to talk, I want that the computer will be very near to me. So thank you very much. So just as a response to your comments as the architect, who is the leader, okay, this is for general buildings, general type of construction, but as an industrial fields, okay, the engineering company will be the leader, because it's diversified fields of activity, and this type of industrial engineering, the management and the communication skills would be more developed and more standardized. So I will a little bit explain one of the term in this discussion, which is the marketing. So as a new entrepreneurship, what is the different steps to sell your product? So my point of view, so there is 4 or 5 steps to develop the marketing strategy and the marketing business plan of the company. The first step is to develop a primary marketing strategy. Marketing strategy, for example, you want to, for example, sell something, so you have an idea, so you want to sell this idea. So you will develop a primary marketing strategy based on the general idea, based on your strategic position, based on your advantages as a new investor or a new entrepreneurship. Then you will, from this, you will develop a marketing action plan. A marketing action plan should include the visit, the communication with the clients, the communication with the partner, the communication with all the stakeholders of your activity, next activity. You should plan also the development of the marketing tools, which are brochure, websites, include in your business plan such type of activities. After preparing this action plan, you will do the action, which is the implementation of the different action, connection, and so on. And as soon as you prepare such action plan, you will you should adjust a little bit